Alright, so welcome back to Driveway. Today we got to get back to work on this Crossfire and get that surge box finished with fabrication, so then we can start taking out the engine and going down that path of final assembly. So make sure to stick around and check this stuff out. Alright, so last time we finished up this box, and now we have to rig it up so we get fuel lines in and out of this box. So first step is drill some holes. But what we're essentially doing is we have these AN bulkhead fittings. This is a pass-through and it goes into a tube flare. So this way we can mount our fuel pump. Those guys will be there. So one for each fuel pump. And then we'll have a large fitting. Probably put the large fitting down here. This will be the flow from the main fuel tank in the Crossfire to here. And by mounting it low, we can also double it up as a drain, so we don't have to, if we ever have to change the fuel pumps, we can actually drain this smaller tank. And then I don't know, maybe up there, that will be the return to the fuel tank on the Crossfire tank. And somewhere else, maybe off on the side here, I don't know, maybe we can do it right there. This will be the return from the fuel rail. So that way all the fuel that goes through the engine comes back from the fuel rail through the return line, goes into this tank instead of the large tank. This will increase the amount of fuel flow into this tank, so you should almost never have a fuel starvation issue, because we're such a small tank. We'll be just good there. So that's pretty much our idea, and how we're going to accomplish this is all of these AN fittings, the bulkhead ones, the nut that goes on the back side of it is just a normal nut. So these are aluminum pieces. We toss them aside and we just grab a steel nut. So for each one of these AN locations, we'll just mount up one of these. Something along the lines of that. So then all the AN fittings will slide back into all these spots, and we will be set. And then we'll have these guys on the inside. Probably move this up as high as we can go. And I've got these right angles, so I can hook the tube onto there, tube onto there, a couple hose clamps, and that will locate where the pumps sit, and then we'll reinforce it to the big bracket inside. So that is the plan for today. And the big thing that I had to wait for quite a while is the standard AN bulkhead fittings. Even though they're a normal thread pitch, the -12, that's not a normal diameter. So it's like it's a normal thread, but good luck finding one that fits there. So what I'm doing in that spot is just a standard pipe fitting. We're gonna zap that on there. And then I got the pipe fitting to AN. So that guy will bolt right into there. And then what we're going to do to pretty much take this thing, which if you don't know from the Crossfire, this is a plug that's in the gas tank. So you had a fitting in here that hooked onto your fuel line that fed the old fuel filter and fuel pump. What we're going to do is we've got another one of these 3/4 pipe. We're going to change this guy into an AN. So that's what we're doing, and I'm guessing we should probably, I think I'm going to get started with this guy here just because it looks like it's going to be the easiest and possibly also the biggest pain in the butt because we got to thread it. But we're going to start off by trying to remove this crap filter here, but we're just going to chuck it up in the lathe and start cutting. Alright, so we took a little off the top here. Looks like they bonded that filter right into the hole there. But that's fine by us. It's like I need to grind off these little feet here, or at least one of them. It's interfering with the jaw. So I'll get that ground down, then we'll bore ourselves a hole in here. All right, well that went pretty smoothly, about as smooth as cheap lathes go. But now we got something that we can thread with the thread, and then we'll be able to bolt in that AN fitting and we will be good to go for the tank. All right, got that all threaded up, looking pretty good, and the fitting will just screw right in. There we go. Now we got a large AN fitting on the bottom of the fuel tank. So that'll keep the box fed, and with a hole that size, I don't think we should have any fuel problems. So I guess now it's time to head back to the box over there and figure out the other half of this. All right, so we got all the holes put in for all of our fittings, and I ground off the flats of the bolts just so I didn't have to deal with the zinc coating, because that stuff in welding doesn't mix. So now it's just a matter of zapping all this stuff together. So I'm going to use these fittings just to get the tack in there, and then I'll zap it in real good. Try to get a similar orientation, just to make it look like I actually gave a darn. And then let's just zap this thing. Alright, so I think that does that. Let's just hit them real quick and see how it looks. Alright, so those welds look pretty darn good. Looks like they should be watertight. And I've got plenty of junk in there. So anyways, so that is pretty much it. Some of these other guys I need to run the thread chaser down. Just because when you weld, sometimes you get a little couple edges from it melting in, especially on the ones that are plated. Sometimes you get that little zinc plating to bubble up, and it makes it more difficult for things to go in and out. That one works fine. This one feels like it's got some couple burrs on it, as you can tell by how it's scratched off the thread here. So I'll have to run a thread chaser down them. No big deal. Nine sixteenths. Alright, that feels pretty well cleaned up. Oh yeah. That is our surge tank. And that should get everything done. So we got fuel pump 1, fuel pump 2, return to the tank, return from the fuel rail, and feed from the tank. So that should be good enough to probably feed well over 1,000 horsepower. So we won't be near that, so we should be good to go then. It's always good to over-engineer and have too much than go through all this trouble and have not enough. So I guess this is probably going to be enough for today. Kind of want to get this thing cleared out of the way because that was supposed to be a last half of the last video. Was just supposed to be getting these things done, but it took forever to get some of these fittings in and figure out exactly what I was going to do and where I was going to route the hoses. And so everything should work pretty decent there. The drive shaft will kind of pass right next to it. So this should be able to go up and over the pumpkin, because we're talking about the rear end flange is going to be like right here. So we'll have these be able to turn a 90 and come right along the tank. So everything should be good there. Then we'll make sure we put a pretty thick drive shaft loop right there for the rear end, because just in case that U-joint there lets loose, we don't want it bashing through and sending gas all over the place. So anyways, yeah, let's just put this thing to bed for the night and get ourselves rolling here. Most likely we're still going to have some pinholes and leaks, so in the future I'm going to have to come through, paint this thing up, probably sandblast it, seal up a couple of these little pinholes here, and then I got some gas tank sealer for a motorcycle tank. That should seal up any other little pinholes that I may not have found or seen. And then we'll be good to go. Alright, so that's going to do it in for today. We got that thing finally cleared off the sheet of things to do. And I guess next time we can start tearing apart the rest of this vehicle here and get into the engine reassembly and start dressing things up and permanently installing them in the vehicle. So, there's a lot of stuff to do, cleaning up the firewall and all that type of stuff, and even patching the roof where I cut to weld the roll cage. So, still got plenty of things to do, and I guess we'll see you next time. Maybe not this Friday, because this garage seriously needs some cleaning. So, I guess maybe next Monday. I'll see you later.